If classical music doesn't start playing every single time you see her, then what's even the point? Also, I'm convinced Tom Cruise would just fall in love with any woman who is kind enough to take off her high heels before approaching him.
Yeah, I'm trying. Oh my God!
How do you follow up Ghost Protocol? Seriously, how do you follow up a film like that? You find your boy, and Christopher McQuarrie is Tom Cruise's boy. He's this franchise's boy. This franchise had a good time across various decades, dating various directors, but it finally settled down. Brad Bird helped it find itself, and now it can settle down with its boy, Christopher McQuarrie. And he just has it together, you know? He has it all. And this one is just for the boys. It's just Ethan with Benji, Luther, and Brant. The boys. Mission Impossible Rogue Nation stars Tom Cruise as Ethan Hunt, now well into his 50s and somehow only speeding up. This film opens with him on the outside of a plane as it flies into the air, and that's what they marketed the film with, so you knew this was always going to be just nuts, if that's just the opener, yeah. He then meets Ilsa Faust, whose name couldn't make her sound less like she's working for the British, and then they go on an adventure chasing after the Syndicate, because every Batman needs its Joker, and the Syndicate is just the IMF, but evil. Which I don't get, because they're not completing possible missions. That'd be the Anyway, it's also a weird choice to make them the villain in the one where they literally have to shut down the IMF because Ethan Hunt himself was handing out nuclear launch codes, which almost resulted in America being destroyed. This film is great. People call it a dip between the two best films of the franchise, and honestly, that's a fair rap, which is incredible given how good this one is. I just love having all of Ethan's kind of best team members in the one film, essentially. Alec Baldwin saying, "This is Ethan Hunt's last day as a free man," and then it cutting to a giant 6 months later on the screen. Honestly, still makes me laugh knowing it's coming. That is so good. And I just do think, like, the opening plane sequence is so good. It's such a good, like, amuse-bouche. It's such a good setup. But then the Opera House sequence, man, without having to do any insane stunts, they show how good this can still be. And that is a breathtakingly good sequence. So while the main actual team is comprised of the boys, Ilsa Faust brings the best female character in this franchise's history to the screen as a real femme fatale. And I mean, her and Ethan, like, it is incredible. Is this the most romantic Mission Impossible film? Oh, I don't know. They only spend half of it in Casablanca. And that set piece as well is just nuts. It's so well done. And they, once again, make it impossible to feel bored in the middle of one of these films because they've got such a glorious, the biggest, really, set piece in chock-a-block in the middle there. And that is, they kind of got back to the formula of, like, one big location per act kind of thing in this, which was good. I like when they're like that, you know. It's very much kind of Vienna in the first act, Casablanca in the second act, London in the third act. And they were also brave in not going for that much of a big final set piece in London. It's a tense situation. There's running, but that's kind of it. Like, it's really the mind game instead between Ethan and Solomon Lane, who is a great villain. And I love that they just kind of made it much more of a cerebral final act because that needed to be the case fitting that kind of villain, you know? I mean, they made it work in Mission Impossible 3, having Philip Seymour Hoffman kind of beat Ethan up at the end because he'd put an explosive charge in his head. But it still was a bit like, okay, as like a final fight, it's not really a... There are so many things which are magnificent about this film. The silence of the underwater sequence is great. The talk, like the playful talk about Ethan's invincibility is so funny. And the line, "He is the living manifestation of destiny," is crazy. I love that. I love Ethan and Benji's relationship here. It's at its best in this film. I love Brant and Luther's relationship. They're so sassy together. And, most of all, Rebecca Ferguson's legs. Ethan Hunt dies, gets in a brutal car accident, and then a horrible motorcycle accident, all in the same 10-minute span in this film. And it doesn't show a hint of any injury in the next scene. Like, anyway. It's not quite as good as Ghost Protocol, but I do think it has a better villain, for sure. Overall, I love this one. I can watch it anytime. It's wonderful. Even if it is kind of the lesser of this almost like trilogy between Ghost Protocol and Fallout. That feels like its own, like, set, and this is the weakest, which is incredible. It's like saying the Two Towers is the worst Lord of the Rings. They're all fucking nuts. I'm giving Let's Steal the Prime Minister is just this decade's Let's Steal the Declaration of Independence, 4.5 stars. I mean, I haven't seen Final Reckoning yet as I film this, but I think this is going to be the third best overall. Yeah, Fallout is just everything. Ghost Protocol I have a soft spot for, but it's just basically across those three like a straight line of quality. And Dead Reckoning...